Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Barrett Dudley. And Barrett, unfortunately, we have to start today with some less than positive news.
Oh, no.
The cancellation of Winning Time.
Yeah.
Bad timing, too.
It was really, kind of just unbelievable timing as this broke last night. This literally, I was getting tweets, push notifications, and text messages from you while I was 35 minutes through episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah.
I chose yesterday, last night. I was like, you know what? I gave Laura our options of what to watch last night because I wanted I gave her 3 options. I wanted something to be able to talk about today.
Yes. So I love that we operate the same way. This is exactly what I do. What were the 3?
So the 3 things were I was like, so we can start season 2 of Winning Time. We can continue on what we're calling in my house the weird fantasy show. That's Wheel of Time.
The Wheel of Time. Yes.
Or we can start Lioness on Paramount Plus. And she said that it was my choice. And so I said, let's go to Winning Time. Because
sports ball.
Because as I thought, and this happened, I was correct in my prediction. We were going to get into Winning Time, and suddenly she was going to be very engaged with what was happening and asking me questions about the actual history of it.
Yeah.
And I was going to be mansplaining sports to her.
Oh, hell yeah.
And who among us doesn't love that?
Just the best.
So Pat Riley, see, he was this, doing my Ken thing basically about Pat Riley.
And now he runs the Miami Heat. Bring her all the way up to 2023.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was all working out for me until halfway through the episode, I looked down at my phone and I was like, oh no. And Winning Time has indeed been canceled. Now, I don't know if you want to give us any facts or anything like that or what they said about the press release, but I've got some overall thoughts on Winning Time as well. So I don't know where you want to start.
Let's do the facts first.
Yeah.
And then I also want to hear because I've watched none of it, and we've talked a little bit about why I haven't been really motivated to dive in, and it's because generally this show I think was always going to have this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping people on the hook for multiple seasons was going to be a challenge when it comes to what is partially fact-based, history-based sports stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, from Deadline it says after the second season finale Sunday, creator Max Borenstein confirmed the news on X, quote, not the ending that we had in mind, but nothing but gratitude and love. And then director Sally Richardson followed up on Instagram with, when you give it everything you've got, you can have no regrets. I hope you enjoy the last episode of Winning Time HBO. At Winning Time HBO is their Instagram handle. I am sure I will do many more hours of TV and hopefully many features in my future, but I can say that at this moment in time, I am most proud of the work we did on this masterful show. And then Deadline goes on to provide a little bit of detail into why the show was canceled. It says the second season of Winning Time returned to HBO August 6th with 629,000 total viewers across Max and linear telecasts, whatever the fuck linear telecasts means.
Mm-hmm.
It says that was a fall from grace considering the 901,000 people who tuned in for the season 1 debut in March of 2022. Now it also notes that when season 1 debuted, March of 2022, March Madness was going on. So basketball was very top of mind for people, and it kind of just fit into that space a little bit better. Last month, Jeff Pearlman, who wrote the book that the show is based on, actually went on X to implore folks to check out the second season, saying, quote, I'm telling you, the future of Winning Time hangs in the balance, Pearlman tweeted, which I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. I didn't see the tweet. I feel like they should have amplified this more because that is the kind of thing that would have motivated me to tune in. If I knew the show was going to get canceled, it's definitely good enough to deserve an audience of some kind. But then it goes on to say, in his tweet, he said, we need viewers. The strikes are crippling. Please help spread the word. Season 2 is amazing, but HBO is big on numbers, he wrote. And just to stop there for a second, I thought this was really interesting because they're basically reviewing the numbers and making a decision on whether or not the show should be canceled in the streaming age while the season is still going? That seems ridiculous. What if like 6 months from now, the word has spread about how, and I'm not saying this is going to happen in this case, but like, let's say theoretically, season 2 is unbelievable. One of the best things we've seen on TV, Barrett. And people are telling each other about it and talking about it at dinner parties, and the strikes end and all is well and in the entertainment world, and the numbers continue to rise and go up. It's just amazing to me that in this day and age, when people do not feel compelled to do appointment viewing,
right,
most things are based on word of mouth and recommendation, they're going in and canceling a show before it has even really had a chance to go.
Yeah.
Like that's weird to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, what surprises me more is that they are basing this off of current numbers right now, amidst the strike. Like that they have to know that these numbers are deflated because of the lack of talk and buzz and marketing and celebrity appearances and like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
No John C. Reilly on the talk shows. Like yes, it's a huge piece of the puzzle.
It definitely, when I saw this news last night, like I really had the feeling of like, okay, this feels like the first real like giant domino of like true effect of the strike. And there have been some other things like that maybe have been kind of bellwethers, right? Like The Great getting canceled. But all of those felt like they probably had like, some other factors as well. This to me feels directly correlated to the strike.
Yeah, it sounds like they fully intended on going
we've
more seasons.
Yes, and we have talked about this show in particular, how it's weird, how it's been really strange that it's on, and it's a big kind of flashy HBO show, and nobody is talking about it. Nobody's watching it. There's not even a whole lot of buzz about like that there was from the first season about like, Jerry West coming out saying, "That's not what I'm like.
I'm gonna sue."
Yeah. So there's just really been like a lack of just anything about it. And I think that I don't know. I was like, it's just a really strange moment because like I know that there is stuff to watch and I know that some stuff is still going to hit the air as scheduled. But like none of it just feels nearly as important or as like meaningful or there's a massive piece missing that I think we generally take for granted, which is just the cultural buzz that happens outside of sitting down and watching the show. And none of that is happening right now. And I feel like the show got canned because of that, essentially. Now there are some other things. There are like, I don't know how HBO felt internally about the whole like piece of this where the Lakers didn't really love this show and Jerry West didn't love this show and people felt wronged by mischaracterizations and the over dramatizations of things.
I don't think that mattered at all. Jeannie Buss coming out and saying that she was watching and enjoying it, I think that overrides all that.
Now, I will say, so I watched the first episode of season 2 last night, and I find the show very, very enjoyable. I always think that like when you're playing with history that you do know, that does build a little bit of excitement in you because you know that this was like real, right? So it's like there's this kind of palpable sense of like, damn, that's cool to like do the flash forwards and flashbacks, and you know what happens. You do know how like the Pat Riley story, how incredibly important and successful he becomes. So all that's like fun to watch. John C. Reilly as Dr. Jerry Buss is incredible. I think the people surrounding him in the office and Jeannie are great.
Feels very Ted Lasso when they're in that area of the show.
I think the show struggles a little bit by trying to make Magic and Kareem stars of this show as well.
Yeah.
And there's even a quote from Magic. I think it's about season 2, or maybe it was after season 1, where he basically talks about how like you can't do a show about the Showtime Lakers without the people themselves, basically. And what he was saying is that like this is such an unbelievable story with unbelievable characters, 2 of whom, Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, are extremely important to it. And are still big characters in real life.
Yeah.
Magic's all over the place. He's on TV. Kareem is very important to the culture and still is writing stuff and still makes appearance. Like they're not gone. And in fact, they still loom very large and are big pieces of the sports culture and of pop culture and at large, right?
Definitely.
And so it's strange, like it's really, really hard to do Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar justice on a TV show.
Oh, I mean, it definitely. His direct quote is, "You can't do a story about the Lakers without the Lakers, the real Lakers. Yeah. You got to have the guys," which I don't necessarily agree with. I do agree with what you're saying, which is that like it's a little bit strange because they're both still so active in the pop culture sports lexicon. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is regularly on TV giving his takes. He's like a journalist now, basically, or like a big time writer.
Right. Yep.
Magic owns a stake in the Los Angeles Dodgers, the WNBA's Los Angeles Sparks, Major League Soccer's Los Angeles FC. He also owns more than 100 Starbucks.
He pops on TV all the time.
He sold the Starbucks for $100 million. Excuse me. So he doesn't own those anymore. But yes, he's extremely prevalent still.
And because those were the players, right? It's like I feel like we know more about their stories already.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say here is that like when I can't really picture what Dr. Jerry Buss looks like in my head.
Me either. Yeah. So it's easier for...
And I don't know about all the internal workings of the team and the machinations about how he like was the pioneer of like salary cap stuff and about how he took like Reaganomics and the fact that like debt was more valuable than cash and like turned it into this machine. Like that's all stuff that I don't know about the way that I know about Magic Johnson being one of the greatest basketball players of all time and then having his career completely derailed when he had to announce that he was HIV positive.
Right.
Or the fact that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was Lou Alcindor and then like found himself and switched over to Islam and then like became like a civil rights. Like these are stories that I know.
He's an activist, yeah.
Right. That I don't really know about Buss. And
well,
so
Dr. Jerry Buss also, he's the one who made, he combined sports and entertainment like no one ever had before. He created the modern landscape for all professional sports, where when you go to a basketball game, there is music pumping, there are people dancing, there's confetti being shot off, mascots running around, pieing each other. Like, it's not just the sport that takes place on the court.
Yep.
It's the entertainment around it, and that translated to every single league. Major League Baseball, the NFL, soccer, every sporting event you attend has been touched by this guy in some way, which was the most interesting part of season 1 to me.
Yeah, so I'm very enthralled with that piece of the story because I'm all the way bought in and I don't feel like I know it. I don't feel like I know it as well. And then I'm not doing, like, to Magic's point, I'm not doing like the actor to person comparisons.
Right.
The way that I'm watching Magic being like, it's not Magic. I know Magic.
Yeah.
And so I do think that piece of it, and they obviously are including Magic and Kareem because they are such, important pieces of the Showtime Lakers story. But like it already just through one episode of season 2, it's like they're not telling me anything new about Magic. It's just he keeps having lots of sex with women, and then he keeps calling Cookie, being like, "Come on, Cook.
I fucked up."
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's just like
it's kind of repetitive.
It's that piece of it right now feels a little repetitive, and so I wonder if there's another kind of version of this show. Which I think about Air. Did you watch Air?
No, not yet.
So they made this decision in the movie Air, where they do not show Michael Jordan's face.
Okay.
They've got a guy playing Michael, and he says like 3 words. His family's on screen. His mom is a big piece of the movie, but like they always show him from the back. They don't have him say much, and he's just like this presence. You know what I mean? And I think part of the reason they did that is because you put somebody on the screen and say that they're Michael Jordan, and the whole audience goes,
"That's not Michael.
That's not Mike."
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
And so, like, I wonder if like there's a different version of this show which focuses more on the kind of backroom office type stuff where we don't have such distinct associations with actual people and actual characters and what their lives were about or what their lives are about.
But I think the problem is that they while the Lakers as an organization also transformed the sports world with all this hybrid entertainment stuff we're talking about and the other revolutionary things that they did, the guys on the court actually did transform the game of basketball too.
Yeah,
Like the Showtime Lakers changed the way the game was played, so I don't think they could have pulled it off
without
there actually being a cast of people playing Magic Johnson, playing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But I guarantee they weighed what you're talking about when they got into the creation of the show for the same reason the guys that did Air left out Michael Jordan's face and didn't want him to be a central figure.
And I mean, and to that point, I do like the basketball stuff too. Like I like, like seeing how these guys did change the game that was being played and how Magic pushed it forward and how the coaches kind of like instituted new systems. Like all of that is very interesting to me as a sports fan as well. So yeah, it's all criticisms, aside, I think this show would have been fun to continue for at least another few seasons, and it's now what I'll always kind of remember and describe as a casualty of the strikes.
I think you're spot on with it being a casualty of the strikes. I have one more question for you before I move into a little bit more of information around its cancellation. What is the setup for season 2?
So season 1, I'm sorry, season 2 starts with the Lakers in the 1984 finals.
Okay.
Beating the Celtics at home in game 1, having to run out of the stadium because they are being so heckled and stuff is being thrown at them, and it's like an absolute like chaotic, insane, intense situation. They run out, they like don't even stop in the locker room. They get straight on the bus, and Riley gets on the bus, and he's got the slick back and the nice Armani suit, and he basically like gives this speech about how like the Celtics already got their rings. It's their time now, but we don't want just a ring. We want their fucking rings. And it's like this really awesome, intense speech. And then it flashes back, and then we go back to the summer of the summer of 1980. The Lakers have won that first title. Paul Westhead is still the coach. Pat Riley is the assistant. Jerry Buss is still figuring out all the money. And like we're moving forward from there. But from what I understand,
I like that setup.
The second season does cover that 4-year span, so there will be some
time jumps.
They move quickly through some things, is what it sounds like.
Okay, I can buy into that, and this is part of where I think HBO failed this show. As a guy who really enjoyed season 1, in some way, shape, or form, the marketing should have informed me what I was in for season 2, and it did not. And I think the strike obviously played in heavily here, but the one place I was exposed to some winning time marketing was on social media.
Okay.
And they just didn't do enough. They didn't back this thing the way they should have. And to get back to this deadline column, it says, back in May, HBO's head of drama, Francesca Orsi, said in a Deadline interview that the network brass were, quote, having conversations regarding viewership relative to budget, end quote, on several sophomore series, including Winning Time. She goes on to say, quote, each show has a job to do given the price tag that we give to it, and there's a viewership component, and there's a critical response element to it, and of course, the buzz nature of a show.
Yep.
It's those elements that we are always keeping in mind and discussing relative to whether or not a show will continue. That factors in for Perry Mason, for Winning Time, for instance, for Gilded Age, so we have to play everything out and see how well they do. Which is funny because it's almost like in her head she was like, and here are the 3 shows currently that I can tell you are on the chopping block, like that might get canceled.
Yeah.
And look, this is why people hate Suits, because they ruin a good time. And in this case, it stinks because Barrett, why, if you work at HBO, when should Winning Time season 2 air?
During the NBA season.
Wouldn't that make a bit of sense?
Yeah.
When people have basketball on the brain, you know what people are thinking about right now in the past 10 weeks? Football.
Yes.
What the fuck were they thinking dropping Winning Time in the offseason?
At the very least, it should debut like right after the NBA championship.
So that it's still fresh on people's minds. Like you got to do something there.
June, July instead of August, September.
So it feels like this was almost like sacrificial lamb shit.
Yeah.
Like they were, because you and I have been talking about, well, what the heck is HBO going to do the rest of the year? What's coming out next? Why aren't they giving us dates for stuff?
Yeah.
And it's like they were like, no, we have to have something. Winning Time is going. I do not, for the life of me, cannot understand why, if you work at HBO, if you're one of the executives, you wouldn't understand that this needs to be at a time airing during a time of the year where people have basketball on the brain.
Right,
you cannot just
right.
pump it out
In the dead of
in
summer.
fucking football season. And really in the dead of summer is when it dropped, before football season even started.
Yeah.
In the
so it's
worst time of
total-
year, period, for sports.
Right.
All around. Even if you wanted to take it outside of basketball. That was the dead zone where it's only baseball. And even people who love baseball know when there was only baseball on TV, that is the most boring time of year for sports. So I can't believe that they set it up with it backs against the wall. They had everything against them. That's the strike and everything that came with it, the total lack of promotion from anybody starring in the show, the strike on the writer's side and on the actor's side, and then during the sports dead zone. It really is a bummer, and I feel like they never had a chance. And when you factor all that in with what I've talked about, my issue with this show was always that it's like, well, I know what happened, but that's not necessarily true. I don't know the nitty-gritty details of all this shit about how they made these decisions, about the financial stuff especially. That was fascinating to me. So like, I look at it as a marketing failure. And as a failure on the side of HBO.
I do agree that the marketing push was really, really strange. Even before the strikes went on, it's like I just didn't feel like I just didn't feel like there was much. There was not a push for this.
Yeah.
And so it stinks. Now, it's interesting what she talks about, how she's really like acknowledging like the three things that we all know factor into these decisions now, which is the raw data, the numbers, the viewership that, kind of always been king, still factors in a major way, but also then critical acclaim, awards, and then just your buzz, what's the pulse of the show in the streets and on Twitter and just, in households, at the water coolers, yada, yada. There's no question that this show, with Perry Mason as well, were very expensive shows to make.
Yeah.
And so that definitely, like, it just sounds like they just were not doing the right numbers, basically. The math didn't add up for how expensive these, I feel like, period pieces, like any show that needs to be in an era, it's just so expensive to do that.
A whole look and feel you gotta have,
right? And so it sucks because we've now lost two shows in an HBO climate where we don't feel like we really have much on the horizon outside of a show we're going to talk about in a second.
And Gilded Age, more so even than Perry Mason, and, well, maybe not more than Perry Mason, but certainly more than Winning Time. Like that show, they're having to transform back into whatever decade of New York City that was, and it has to be so freaking costly.
Yeah.
And I will say more so than Perry Mason and Winning Time, I don't know who's watching Gilded Age.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I'm watching it, but I guess the answer to that question is Downton Abbey fans, because that's the only real bucket I can see them bringing out, like, and expecting to grab from. Like, it's Downton Abbey fans or people who really, really like period pieces, but it feels, if they haven't been canceled already, which I don't feel like Googling at the moment because it'll just make me more sad, I have a feeling Gilded Age is next. I don't think any of the three shows she mentioned in that quote will survive, unfortunately, when it's all said and done. And yes, this takes us to our next topic, which is that Barrett and I, for the past couple weeks, keep going, when are they going to announce True Detective? When are they going to give us the date? Because we're really looking forward to season 4, Night Country. And it turns out at the end of August, they actually did announce sort of that basically the premiere window is now listed as 2024 on the show's website. And then HBO confirmed that True Detective Night Country is now set to premiere in January. And they didn't even give us a specific date, which makes me feel like they went, and all right, we'll just push this down the calendar to the month of January and we'll deal with it then, but maybe the strikes won't even be over, so we won't even have to pick a day. And if we give people a specific day, then they'll mark it on their calendars and they'll be even more likely to be disappointed and pissed off when we have to push it again.
Yes.
Which is really frustrating, man, just because it's, again, I'm like, like, we're going to have to wait until next year now to watch a lot of stuff that from the beginning of this year or even into 2022, I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
And now they're gone. And I was stoked on this because the Jodie Foster casting is so interesting to me.
Very cool.
Seeing her solve grisly crimes would be fun, Barrett. And then when I looked into this today, I didn't realize her co-star, basically the Callie Rice, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. She's playing the other detective. She was a professional boxer and former world champion in 2 different weight classes, having held the WBC female middleweight title in 2016 and the WBA, WBO, and IBO female lightweight welterweight titles between 2020 and 2022. So maybe still active. I don't know. But like she's a champion boxer, which is just tight because you put her with Jodie Foster and they're out there solving crimes or whatever. And
in
then,
Alaska, right? We're in Alaska.
Yeah. Can I read you the synopsis?
I mean, I've read it, but yeah, please read it
for
again.
season 4, just to keep the buzz alive, keep the hype alive.
Yeah.
In night country, when the long winter night falls in Innis, Alaska, the 8 men who operate the Salal Arctic Research Station vanish without a trace. To solve the case, detectives Liz Danvers, Foster, and Evangeline Navarro, Rice, must confront their pasts and the dark truths lying underneath the Arctic ice.
Yeah, this is going to be dope.
And now we got to wait till next year.
Now we got to wait till next year. Thus robbing us once more of a consensus show that is ripe for diving into.
Yes,
yeah. That's
they're killing us here, man.
They're really killing us here. And I do feel like these moves, that's the other thing. They're feeling more and more political, right? They're feeling more and more like they're designed to make us mad and look for somebody to blame.
Yeah.
And they and right now it's like I'm not saying that I'm going here, but I can feel that the push is like we're looking over here because we're looking for to the networks and to the streamers to give us the content. And when they stop giving us the content, are like we turn over here and say, we're looking for the blame, right?
Whose fault is this?
So we're saying, what are y'all doing, right? Why are they not giving us the content? What did y'all do, right? So it's like I think that's what they're expecting.
Oh, remember? Okay, so
because
this brings me to a good thing because we talked last week about how Drew Barrymore was taking a ton of heat for being I'm going out, I'm doing the show. She got so much feedback that she went, that's my bad.
Yep.
I'm not doing the show.
And as did Bill Maher and Jennifer Hudson. And basically everybody that had made this decision has already backed off of it because they were...
Yes, because they got attacked by people being like, fuck you, Drew Barrymore. Ah! And here's the beautiful part of it. And I was so right about this because I felt like no matter what, this played toward the studios. It was a huge win for them because it shows this like break in the line, holding the line or whatever. Drew Barrymore is still getting buried. Even though she came out, and I believe was the first of the 3 to be like, this was a mistake. I am not going to do the show anymore. People are still all over her shit. Like the show is probably ruined anyway. Like we suck at this in America, especially. It's like it's part of our culture, but like once you're down, we don't stop kicking you just because you've acknowledged it. Mm-hmm. Like, so she's still getting roasted. And then these other 2 follow her. Like what I'm saying is in America, in pop culture, if you make a mistake and then you apologize for it and try to make right on your mistake, nobody cares. Yeah, they just want to shit on you because mostly I think it's because it makes us feel better about ourselves.
Well, I'll continue to borrow and use the sports analogies here since we're talking winning time, but winning does fix everything, as they say.
That's true.
So I think she'll be okay if these strikes wrap up and the actors and the writers feel good about what they got. You know what I mean?
I hope so because I really like Drew Barrymore.
So
she's a real weirdo.
But yeah, that's that's the now they're definitely playing games. They're trying to turn public opinion in one direction or another, and that they're using what they have. They're killing shows and cutting off the content stream. And then being like, well, we can't do it because they won't promote it or market it. So
they won't go to work.
What are we supposed to do? And then we say, well, what are you doing? And so now we're like a child of divorce, just being put in the middle, having to
pick sides,
and that's not fair.
It's very unhealthy.
I cannot believe that the studios have not bent. I can't believe that the strike has not just has not bent to the workers yet, man.
I mean,
it seems so easy.
Look, I'll just say it one more time. We've harped on it, but I when I look at the whole landscape, this entire situation, the number one problem is that when they started streaming, the networks, the huge companies behind these streaming apps and platforms said, what if we didn't make the numbers public? What if we didn't tell anybody how many people were tuning in for this show or that show? And it put us in a position where basically it gives stock buyers less information to go off of. So it's just buzz and branding. And people are like, oh, Disney Plus, Disney, everybody loves Disney. All right, I'll buy some Disney. Give me some of that Disney. And then if they have to make the numbers public, which I believe will be the end result of this entire strike situation, people are going to realize, like, well, Disney's had a huge dip this quarter. I'm going to sell Disney or whatever. Like, I don't think Disney's doing as well, blah, blah, blah. It puts them in a more transparent position as companies, which in the case of mismanagement and poor decision-making can result in losses.
Yeah. For whatever reason right now, this entire time, I have felt like the guilds were leading. I thought they had more hand. And now all of a sudden, the longer this goes, the more I feel like the studios have the hand.
Dude, because they're starving them out.
Pretty much.
That's the strategy. These people don't have income right now.
My initial thought was that the studios are losing so much more money, like, you know, as a unit. Collectively, we're talking what the loss here, it's billions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
Whereas, like, you know,
Joe Blow not making his $56K.
Yes, exactly. Right. So on a 1-to-1, it's like very, like, I just thought the money would talk.
Yeah, but Joe Blow's got bills to pay.
And these people wouldn't want to hemorrhage and lose out on billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But now the truth is, these pockets are so much deeper.
Yeah.
That it's looking like they can just be like, we'll just lose the fucking money.
Yes.
We'll just lose it for as long as we have to.
They can play this game forever.
For a lot longer. Yeah.
I mean, and if you're looking at the people making the decisions, it's really not that many people.
Right.
You know, it's boardrooms and some CEOs, and you're talking about people worth $100 million plus in a lot of cases. They don't give a fuck what happens at the end of the day. They don't care.
Yeah.
Everybody else, like, I follow this really closely on Twitter because a lot of the strikers are super active in both the acting and the writing guilds. And I've watched the mood go from, it was almost exactly what you just said. Like, you felt like the guilds were in the lead. They were so positive and together at the beginning of it. And now what I see the tweets about, it's like health insurance. What are we going to do for health insurance? How am I going to put my kids through school?
Yeah.
Like, people are bringing up the real world questions that come with no income and no ability to make money. And It's really messed up, but, like, at what point does public opinion sway the other way and go, well, you're bankrupting all of these people financially. You're destroying the livelihoods of thousands and thousands of people versus, you know, you dozen people making a few more $1 million a year. I just don't know if we care enough. And I don't even know if they care about public perception. I don't know if they even factor that in, but it's a mess. We hope it gets cleared up soon. We hope that the streamers break.
There is an announcement as of an hour ago from Deadline that the WGA has confirmed talks with the AMPTP will restart on Wednesday.
Great. We hope that happens. They should definitely at least be talking, you know?
Yeah.
Feels like there's no way to solve this otherwise.
You know what's weird? Just thinking about all the stuff on the shows that we've talked about so far. Besides Succession and The Bear, basically this year, just nothing demanded that I watch it as it was coming out.
Yeah, that's where we've been at.
That's probably on me, but there's just like I've just been watching everything on a delay this year.
I mean, I think we hit that point where there were so many different options that things feel less important individually. Like, you know how it is for us on social media. We'll be like, what should we watch? And people throw all these different shows at us, like The Expanse, Foundation. There's like 15 different things. I'm like, it makes it feel like there's not one consensus thing because I'm getting a bunch of different stuff shouted at me instead of one thing. And then also just the landscape, once the strikes started up, everything shifted focus to what was going to be pushed back, what was going to get canceled, what was going to be off the table. And it's just been a weird year. I compared it earlier, or one of our recent episodes, I compared it to like when COVID hit. Because it's felt pretty much the same way. Like where I'm like, oh, it's year 2023 is basically lost to time now. You know,
feels that way.
We had the end of Succession in season 3 of The Bear, and that was kind of it. And it's bizarre. Yeah. Moving on. I am not a good cook. Everyone knows this. That's why I rely on today's sponsor, Factor, to keep myself fueled up and ready to rock with wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track. So if you're too busy to cook but want to make sure you're eating well, with Factor, skip the trip to the grocery store and skip the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy, then get back outside, enjoy the weather, the cooler weather, or let's be real, sometimes you need something healthy to eat while you enjoy your favorite shows and movies from the couch. If you're looking for calorie-conscious options during the busy season, try delicious dietitian-approved, calorie-smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice as well. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions, source 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices, and feature sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. This September, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door, ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. If you're living life on the fly, I could not more highly recommend Factor. It's time to sign up for Factor with our special offer just for members of the Clam Fam. Head to factormeals.com/OCC50. Use code OCC50 and you will get 50% off your first box. That's code OCC50 at factormeals.com/OCC50 to get 50% off your first box. And all of the details from today's sponsor, Factor, are featured in the description and details of this episode as well. So check those out and click the link. All right, so last week, it may have been on Patreon, we talked a little bit about one of the movies that was kind of on my radar, Theater Camp. And that it had hit streaming services. It's available now on Hulu, and we had a few different things about it that made it interesting to us. For one, it's a comedy, and it's fairly rare that we talk about a comedy at all in this day and age. Two, one of the guys that stars in the film and is also an executive producer kind of began his career by making sketches and YouTube videos for the website that I started my career on, and that you were part of the company that managed that website for a number of years there as well. Jimmy Tatro is his name. Also Molly Gordon, who wrote and directed and stars in this, is the love interest. I believe her name is Claire.
Claire, yes, in The Bear Season 2.
In The Bear Season 2.
Yep. Also on Winning Time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is she a bus?
No, she works.
She's the assistant.
She works in the front office,
Yeah. She's got a good little career going.
Oh, yeah.
She's really doing it. Her character's name in this film is Rebecca Diane. Yeah. Which, that's supposed to be funny, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I watched this one last night when we did like the here's 3 things we could watch and pick from. We went with Theater Camp.
It was Theater Time when you watched Theater Camp.
It was. But when did you watch it, first of all?
Friday night.
What were your thoughts, your takes?
I feel a little misled by the trailer of this here movie.
Now, why is that, Barrett?
Okay, and that's because the trailer is very bouncy and fun and has momentum, and I think oversells the pace of this movie. It's not a long movie. It's only about an hour and a half, and yet it feels a little slow. It drags for me.
A bit, yeah.
Especially in like the second third of the movie, I would say. That second half hour.
It kind of loses its way a bit.
Is a little long. Now I went into this movie knowing kind of like understanding and appreciating that this was like a small budget indie film produced by produced and starring its creators, essentially. Like, this is very much like, it's a little meta in that sense that it feels very much like a movie produced by a bunch of theater kids. Do you know what I mean?
I'm pretty confident Molly Gordon was a theater kid.
Yeah. And obviously the other lead, the guy that plays Amos, Ben Platt. is Broadway royalty at this point, right?
Yeah.
So it's got a lot going for it in that sense. It stars theater people, it's by theater people, it's for theater people. I would give this movie a B, basically, maybe a B minus. I think much in the way that I absolutely just fell in love with the second season of Euphoria because of the giant musical at the end.
Yeah.
It's the same way I felt about this movie. The last half hour where they actually perform the musical saves the film for me.
Yeah.
Because that part is very fun and very good and kind of like ties all the stories together in a very fulfilling way. But I just felt like it was it was a bit slow overall.
I mean, it was almost like, without doing like hardcore spoilers here, it felt like there were some storylines that they just kind of forgot they had created. And I'll give you an example that doesn't do anything to the plot of the film.
You okay?
Ayo Edebiri's character.
Yeah, thought there was going to be a lot more Ayo Edebiri.
Janet.
Yeah.
She gets hired because the new owner of this theater camp, Troy Rubinsky, played by Jimmy Tatro, is trying to cut the budget. So he fires a bunch of counselors, and then he hires Ayo as the replacement for a bunch of different counselors.
Yeah.
And then her character development is?
Pretty much zero.
None. Nothing happens. There's absolutely zero reason for that to be included in the movie at all.
Yes.
One of the other major plot points is that the two, what I would argue are the main characters, Rebecca Diane and Amos, played by Molly Gordon and Ben Platt, they're writing this year's production. Mm-hmm. And then they have a falling out, and then it gets patched up. How? She just fucking shows up at the end, and all is well. Mm-hmm. There's no real like storytelling that occurs. It's just she just came to make right on it. It just there's huge holes in the plot that they should have filled in.
Well, and I think that look, this is shot in kind of a mockumentary style as well.
Yeah, and
to that point, it uses some storytelling techniques which I often consider crutches.
Yeah,
and that's when you put text on the screen to like give a little a little precursor or a postcursor or like kind of explain something that happened, that usually feels like it's something you couldn't figure out how to say on screen.
Right.
With acting.
The biggest problem that is presented in the film is that the camp is in dire straits, dire financial straits. They're going to have to sell the camp. That gets solved not with plot movement on the screen or character development, but with a black screen popping up and a line
and telling you how it...
Don't get me wrong, it's kind of cute and funny.
Right.
And if I had to pick one word to describe this movie, it's cute. It's cute. Cute little comedy.
Yeah.
Family friendly, except, and this is another thing I wanted to harp on. Why throw in the F-bomb? One F word in this thing. There's just a random, he goes, what the fuck was that? When she makes up the song on the spot, when he goes, what the fuck was that? And if you take that one line out, I think this is a PG-13 film.
Right.
And you could watch it with your kids and whatnot, especially if your kids are into theater or singing, dancing, all that, blah, blah, blah. And but that's where my confusion going into this was. I thought it was going to be dirtier and more adult. I was thinking like heavyweights vibes, like give the adults something to laugh at too type of thing. And they didn't really do that so much.
Yeah.
It was a little more childish than I thought it would be, and a little less dark, a little bit more just like silly, nice, friendly comedy. And on that level, on the silly, nice, friendly, cute comedy level, it succeeded with the flying colors. But like on a storytelling level or like a real character development level, it was a little bit shallow.
Yeah.
It felt like, like I was watching a movie that was supposed to be for 15-year-olds. And maybe it is. Maybe that's the audience they were going after. Because I'll say this, the stars of this thing, the people I was impressed with watching are the children.
Are the kids, yeah.
The kids were incredible. The singing, the dancing, they must all be very legit theater kids. Like I feel like they went out and cast the best of the best theater children in the freaking country.
Yeah, they got some good ones.
Yeah, those kids crushed. They were awesome. That was the thing that kept me clued into the show was watching them perform. I was just like, God damn, I never knew any kids who could sing or dance like that. And the overall message of like theater camp is a place that kids who don't really have another place to go can find themselves, that aren't into sports or like one of the cool kids or like, whatever. I get all that. That's a fine message.
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like they hammered it home in any way. It just kind of like when push came to shove and it was time to make their big points, they kind of just punted to the fucking screen text, and I was a little bummed by that. So, all things considered, like I said, really cute comedy. It's not that I hated it. Like
no, I look, and I got laughs or smiles throughout the film.
A little bit of emotion too. It was solid.
So it's not like I regretted watching it or anything close to that. It just definitely was. It just felt really film schoolish, right? Like it needed work. It wasn't polished. It
needed one more draft.
And it kind of used some storytelling stuff that felt a little shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I went, this isn't good if this happens at the end of the movie. If I go, I could have written that. That's not good. That's never. And look, I'm not trying to knock it. It's just what we do on the show is critique movies and tell y'all whether or not you should watch them. So what I'm saying with this one is I pretty much have to agree with Barrett. It's like a B- for me. And if you needed something to throw on that's going to be light, that's not going to be like super daunting or heavy in any way, shape, or form, not make you think too much, but it's cute and fun, and you get a couple laughs and a couple of moments where it pulls on your heartstrings a little bit. This does all that. If it helps definitely if you're a fan of some of the people in it already.
But yeah, and that's we touched on it very briefly, but just to reiterate, like I like Jimmy Tatro. I've got time for him. Loved him in that Netflix show. What was American
Vandal?
American Vandal. Yes, like his shtick is good, and here they used him a little too much. I thought.
Yeah, a little too much for that shtick to be effective.
Yeah. So I was actually kind of shocked at how much of a main character he was, and then they got Ayo Edebiri right there, and then they barely use her.
Didn't do shit with her. Yeah.
They didn't do shit. So
bizarre.
Would have flipped their screen times, methinks.
I mean, see, that's what I'm saying is like, look, I'm not an expert, man. I've never made a movie. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a podcast guy. Mm-hmm. But if I can watch your movie one time and go, hey, Ayo Edebiri's character doesn't work. You either need to switch that up or get rid of it entirely. Then something has gone terribly amiss. Yep. And I don't know what the hell happened there. I just don't understand. The one scene where they try to utilize what she has going at all is when she's like going to teach the kids to fight each other. She's doing stage combat, mm-hmm. and then she has one of the kids slap the other kid for real in front of like another counselor who was like, "What the hell was that? You taught them real violence. That's not stage violence."
No, that was stage combat.
I thought she really slapped her.
No, I think they just did maybe
or they just did a great job. I don't know. The point is, that whole thing was just kind of like her whole presence in the movie was just wasted. It was just weird, and there were a few different points where I felt like they could have done something a little bit, just a little tweak, some small tweaks, and then you've really got a stew going, Mm-hmm, so, anyway, all in all, good fun.
What's next on your list? What did you pitch out as the three options last night, by the way?
Oh, I got to give you this. Okay, so I went to the Google reviews of Theater Camp because
mm-hmm.
I was interested. I was like, what are people saying about this? I'm sure they're getting a lot of positive reviews from theater people, and they are. There are only 5-star reviews and 1-star reviews.
Okay.
Now there are a plethora of 5-star reviews from Theater Camp people who enjoyed this movie.
Yes.
Then,
if you went to Theater Camp, you're gonna love this.
Oh
shit.
yeah, 100%.
That's definitely like all the in jokes about what that style of camp is like are good. They're funny. I get them, and also I'm sure if you've been or have even more of a connection point, they're even better. So,
which I feel like is what keeps this movie from being a failure. Like achievement number one for them was always going to be connect with that audience, right?
Yeah.
But so I click over to the 1-star reviews because I was clicking down on 5, 4, no 4s, no 3s, no 2s, and then there's some 1s. And I mean, you can probably guess based on having seen the film, the kind of people that are in the 1-star arena.
Okay, is there some
woman,
hateful bigotry in here?
Here's one from a woman named Debbie. It's not my mom, just for the record. It's not Debbie Bolin. It's Debbie Kane. I'll just throw this Debbie under the bus. It's a public review. This is on her, not me.
Fuck you, Debbie.
Awful movie. All about men who want to be woman. Weird people. No, it gets so much better. All about men who want to be woman. Weird people teaching kids to act. Finally, I fell asleep. The camp was going bankrupt. After a long while, I didn't even care how they saved the camp because of the weird people. A man in a skirt. Boys who want to be girls. Psychics. At least have a good plot. I'm not homophobic. But come on, this movie was the worst. And it's like, if you have to write, I'm not homophobic.
It's always it's a telltale sign.
Pretty big red flag that you're homophobic. Anyway, I thought that was hysterical, so I had to share Debbie Kane's review. Debbie, fuck off. Anyway, you asked what my things I'm picking between right now are.
You said you also had some options for last night, the same as I.
One of them was finish Amadeus, which she quickly shot down. My wife has no interest in finishing this film, and I want to finish it because I'll say this. My parents, I brought it up with them because I was like, I remember them saying how good Amadeus was, and I was like, the acting it's a little weird, and they were like, yeah, but that was considered good acting back then.
In
and I'm like,
1984,
guys, first of all, I've seen movies from the 90s, and then how do you explain like the acting in movies from the 70s? Like I'll bring this one up, The Godfather.
Yeah, right.
Stylistically, that is not an excuse. I thought that was funny. My parents defending it. I can't remember what my third option was last night. It may have been just like darkness, laying in the dark with no sound on and decompressing for a Sunday night. But yeah, we're still in the thick of the drought, man. It's going to be tough sledding out there.
Are you fully caught up on Wheel of Time?
Yeah, new episode dropped Friday.
And you caught it?
I caught it, and things are moving quickly now. There's a lot going on every episode. Where I told you, like, one of my big selling points last week was like there are these big wow moments where you're like, holy shit. Yeah. Well, now there are like 3 an episode, and I'm like, kind of.
How many Trollocs in this Friday's episode?
Okay, you'll be happy with this part. Very low Trolloc count in season 2. Trollocs have gone way down the list of issues. You're dealing with the people controlling the Trollocs now.
Okay. All right.
And I'm enjoying it, but I'm also starting to understand where you were after episode 1 and where I was during my first watch of episode 1, which is that like it is pretty high fantasy.
Very high fantasy.
Like you gotta be into fantasy to really enjoy the Wheel of Time. It doesn't have that baser level boobies and violence that Game of Thrones has.
That stuff that really just taps into the red-blooded
the red-blooded us.
The red-blooded us.
Yeah, it doesn't have those things, and that's where I understand that people are like, I'm not in for this. I'm still really liking it. Season 2 is halfway done now, so I'll report back when it's all the way done.
It's only halfway done?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
I don't think Barrett's in for this. It sounds like we've lost his household here, so the weird fantasy show will be discussed again when I finish season 2. Or because we will have nothing new to talk about next week as a result of all this nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll just bring it up again.
I don't know where we are on it, to be honest. I'm right now. I am in. Look, I guess I kind of lied about Bear and Succession being the only things. There was Last of Us at the beginning of the year, and I am staying very current with Only Murders in the Building right now. I guess more my point was like I just let a lot of stuff fall off and just be like, I'll get to it. Yeah. And really, I felt like I've just had, maybe it's just a bandwidth issue. Maybe I've just had bandwidth for one show to stay current with at a time. And that's kind of that. But like, yeah, so much stuff that we just kind of got too late or we were like just kind of right behind like we were with Silo or whatever. But streamers, HBO especially, give it a little room to breathe, baby. We're catching up here.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me about this whole strike situation is that I did not appreciate how much the promotional pushes were helping guide me to what I was supposed to watch next.
Totally.
And now that those don't exist, and I'm not a late night talk show guy, but I do watch the clips, and they typically have people being interviewed that are from the shows that then get me to go, oh, the great season 3 is on or whatever. And then I remember like that not having that is crushing my my compass that points me in the direction of what's next. So anyway, if you're looking for more OCC, we do an exclusive ad-free episode every week driven by hotline calls from our listeners, available exclusively on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Subscribe on Patreon for as little as $5 a month to support our show and enjoy so much more exclusive OCC content ad-free. When you join, you immediately gain access to our entire backlog, including our companion podcast for HBO's classic crime drama, The Sopranos, friendly to both first-timers and rewatchers. sponsors, as well as our bonus coverage of Silo, Succession, The Last of Us, House of the Dragon, The White Lotus, and more. Patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, and we'd appreciate it if you continue to support our sponsors. This week, we had Factor. Go to factormeals.com/OCC50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code OCC50 at factormeals.com/OCC50. Barrett and I will be back later this week on Patreon. Until then, holler at us on social media at Barrett Dudley everywhere and at WRBOLEN. Check out bowlinmedia.com for more from my little startup. Go to bowlinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some OCC merch. Good luck out there finding something to watch.
Trollocs! Let's go get a Trolloc, Ross!
Let's find a Trolloc together. Peace.